What's up, y'all? Good evening. I'm gonna go ahead and do a live. Last time, I normally do my lives in the car, um, which is like I'll be usually in town, so the connection's really good. But today I'm doing a live from inside the house. So if the connection fails, if you lose me, it's just because the connection fails. I'm on a different Wi-Fi than I was last time, so hopefully it'll hold up for me. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do my intro. Anybody that doesn't know me, or if you're not familiar with my face, I'm part of Breaking the Chains. It's a nonprofit organization that Jewel and I started about 2 years ago when my mother passed away. It was her vision. It was something she wanted to do, and she eventually wanted to open her own halfway house or recovery house, whatever you want to call it, sober living. So that's our long-term goal. That's what we're working towards. We also collaborate with Midshore Restoring Hope in Women. And over the past 2 years, when we've been doing this, this is where the funds have been going. So when we have a fundraiser or we hold an event, whatever we raise, or if you see us selling T-shirts, everything we make goes to them. Um, like I said before, I believe Jewel told me that we've placed 12 women so far, 12 or 15, somewhere around there. So that's pretty exciting. But starting now, we're going to start working towards our own recovery house because, we got to start somewhere. And it costs a lot of money for these things. So that's basically our goal. That's what we're going to work towards. Um, and it's been a pretty exciting day. We actually started um, our actual nonprofit. Like we've actually got it, got the ball rolling on legalizing it and getting it to where it's official. And it's going to be called Hewitt Houses. That's my mom's last name. We had some issues with breaking the chains. That's still going to be like our slogan, but to to actually purchase the name, it was going to cost like $2,000. So we were like, nah, we're not doing that. Um, so we just went with something else. We went with Hewitt Houses. We were gonna call the recovery house that we opened. We're gonna call it Wendy's House anyway. So it's not really like a big switch up for us. And breaking the chains is still gonna be our, like our mantra. It's still gonna be what we talk about. It's still gonna be what describes our movement and what we're trying to do. So now that that's out of the way, now that all the background stuff is out of the way, I'm Joseph. I'm a recovering alcoholic. Um, I'm from the Eastern Shore of Maryland. I recently moved to Houston, Texas. So that's where I'm at currently. And today's topic, we're pulling it from the Just for Today. That's generally where I pull my topics from. And today's topic is about, judgment, stereotypes. So it's like, it's really important for us. It's a real important topic because what I find a lot when I'm, following these types of pages and I'm following these groups, um, you know, we're familiar with judgment and stereotypes because we've been labeled and stereotyped and judged for so long, and a lot of times we get stereotyped and we get judged. But what I find is oftentimes when people get into recovery, they can have a bad habit of carrying over that same sickness, where they get judgy or they get, they start falling into stereotypes or they start creating stereotypes. And it's just something you want to be careful with when you're in recovery, when you're creating a platform for yourself, when you're putting yourself up there on a level to where you're trying to empower addicts or help addicts. You got to make sure you're kind of being careful about things you say, things you do. Um, Now, anybody that knows me, if you're familiar with me, if you follow me, I'm brutally honest. So I don't believe in, you know, I don't believe in lying to spare somebody's feelings all the time. And I don't feel like that's healthy for recovery. If you believe in something wholeheartedly and you state it as your opinion, then I believe it's okay and I believe you can stand by that. But you just got to make sure you're walking that line. You got to make sure that you're not judging somebody because of their situation. So an example would be To me, an example of standing by something that you believe in would be saying like, I fully support the methadone and Suboxone program. Now we're not going to debate that. That's not something I'm trying to do. Um, you could just let's say that's what you believe in. You believe it helps. You believe in the program. That would be you standing by something that you believe in, and it's your opinion, right? So it's just an opinion. But judging would be saying that if you're if you're on the Suboxone or the methadone program, then you're not clean, or you won't have any recovery, or you can't get recovery. So you just got to be careful with the wording. It's okay for you to believe in something and stand by it, and be somebody of integrity by standing by what you believe in and saying what you believe in. But it's another thing to cast judgment onto somebody because they have a different belief, or they have a different value, or a different opinion. I try really hard not to do that. Like I said, I try to walk that rope. I try to make sure that I'm being transparent, and I'm saying what I believe, and I'm sticking by what I believe in. But at the same time, I try not to cast judgment. Like, for example, I talk about a lot about the disease and choice thing. When I start that conversation, I say this is just my opinion, and at any point, if this video bothers you or if you don't like it, you can get off of it. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes, but I'm trying to give you what I believe. I'm trying to tell you what I believe. I'm trying to tell you what helps me. So all we can do as fellow addicts and alcoholics is share our experience and our truth and what helps us. We can't share some, how beneficial is it to share some gimmicky made up story or something that's just, there's no cure, there's no trump all, there's no right answer in recovery. So it's like, I feel like it's more beneficial to be transparent and to be real and to be honest and share your story, because I feel like you're doing a disservice if you don't. If you sugarcoat your story, or you try to, switch your story up to serve a greater public, then I feel like you're selling yourself short, and you're also shortchanging the people who might be inspired by your real story, your true story, or your true opinions, or your true beliefs. So I'm all for it. I'm all for having a different opinion and standing by it and just saying it's my opinion. If we don't have to like it to coincide. We don't have to have the same beliefs to coincide. And I feel like we have a lot of problems with that. I feel like a lot of people struggle with having a different opinion and just moving on. It's like, I like apples, you like oranges. So what? We both like fruit. Let's move on. Let's keep going. Let's get over that. So it's just one of them things that happens in recovery too much. And it kind of puts a damper on the end game, the end goal, which is getting addicts the help that they need, sharing, strength and hope, and, sharing your story and your recovery, and trying to bring that to somebody else. Like I said, I've done videos before where my message wasn't necessarily helping someone, and I couldn't help someone that was watching my message, but someone in my comments that was also watching my message was able to reach out to them and help them, or was able to explain something to them to help them that I had no knowledge of, which would have been the Suboxone and the methadone program. Somebody got in the comments and was helping them with that situation, because I told them I have no experience with it because it has nothing to do with me. I've never attempted it. I've never tried it. And my problem was always alcohol, so I never had to go down that path or experience that. So it just goes to show you, you never know who's going to be impacted by what you have to say, or how your true content can help someone. So just make sure that you're being honest, you're being genuine, you're being yourself, you're being transparent, but just you don't have to judge people in the process. So I don't really know any other examples to give you that would, explain it any better, but it's just something you got to watch for. Judging. So here's an example of judging. Judging would be, we've all seen it before, right? Somebody gets in the video, does a live like I'm doing right now, and they're in the clean and sober group, and somebody gets in the comments and like, oh, you look high, and blah 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 blah. Just everybody's like starting this big debate whether the guy or girl in the video is high or not. Like, so, I mean, it's like I get it, but I don't, because like you're passing judgment. You're not sitting next to that person. You have no clue what they did that day. You have no idea whether whether they have or they haven't. So you're just throwing out loose accusations based on what? Their speech was a little slurred. Maybe they just had a stroke. You know what I mean? Like, you have no clue. You have no prior knowledge of that individual to make that type of accusation or that type of judgment. And when I see stuff like that, it just kind of makes me cringe, because I'm like, we're all here for recovery, and this is a support group. So just make sure that you're not passing judgment on somebody. I seen another one where this guy posted a picture, and he had a big stack of money, and he was just basically saying, this is what I've been able to do now that I've been clean. And it was so many people in the comments trashing this guy for posting his money. They were accusing him of, some kind of like shady shit, like saying that his money wasn't legal, and they don't even know this guy. That's the shit that blows my mind. Like, you don't even know this guy, and he's just basically, and to me, that stuck out to me. Like, me being somebody that I saw the picture and was like, I was like, damn, that's like a reality check. You're looking at what you wasted when you were getting high or you were drinking all the time. And he's showing you, like, this is what I've been able to obtain now that I'm not blowing my money on drugs and alcohol, and I'm not blowing my money on, probation and all kinds of other shit. And it's people in the comments, just putting this guy on the whipping post because he put a picture of some money up, So that would be an example of judging someone or stereotyping somebody, and I'm not worried about people that aren't in the addiction community, because they're gonna judge. It's not. We don't have to worry about that mess. We gotta clean up our own yard, and so to speak. So we gotta make sure that we're holding each other accountable, and we're cleaning up our own yard. If you have an issue with somebody, if you had the time to write the comment, then you had the same amount of time to send that person a private message, instead of creating a lynch mob for the guy or the girl on the internet in the comment section. Because it's like, it spreads, right? When one person throws out a loose accusation, then you got other people jumping on the bandwagon because, well, the ice has already been broken. Somebody already said what I was thinking, so I'm going to get on there and beat them up too. It's like, come on now. And it kind of blows me away when people in the addiction community do that, because then they'll make a video or a post crying about how non-addicts treat them. And I just talk about it all the time. You can't have one and then not the other. You can't complain about how non-addicts treat addicts, but then addicts treat other addicts the worst. It's like, you can't do that. You got to make sure you're setting an example for the people outside of the community. You know what I mean? So if I'm not an addict and I'm watching your community and I'm watching how you guys operate, and all you guys are on the same page, and you guys are working out issues and little beefs amongst each other, and you're settling it, and you're getting to a higher goal, and you're creating a high standard for yourselves, I would have a lot of respect for that, and I would say, okay, there's something to this. These people really do need help, and it's good to see that they're making an effort, so let's try to help them because they're making an effort. But when you're from the outside looking in, and you see, like, people just bashing each other and trying to call each other out for dumb shit, and you're just going to be like, I'm not wasting my time helping them. They can't even get along. They can't even help themselves. They can't even work together on their own shit. So why are we going to try to step in and do anything about it? You know what I mean? So you got to just keep that in mind. You got to hold yourself at a higher standard. Yes, exactly. Sorry, my vision's getting really bad. Um, so yeah, I agree with you. It motivated me. I didn't When I saw him post the picture, I was like, damn, that's a reality check. Because the guy said he owned his own construction company. So yeah, he's gonna have a lot of money. They make a lot of money. If you own your own company in anything, you're not gonna be cash poor. You're gonna have a lot of cash. So I was impressed. It made me feel good that that's money that he's taking home to his kids if he's got them. That's money that he's using to enjoy his life instead of throw his life in the trash and treat his life like it's not worth anything. So I was inspired by it personally. But just like I said, there's always them ones. And as a community, so you would say like you're gonna ask me, well, what should we do with them? Should we just kick them out the group? No, you shouldn't kick them out the group because they still need recovery. Whether somebody's an asshole or not, they still deserve recovery. So if it was me, I would just kind of try to pull them aside or message them, and just say, hey, think about it like this. And if that don't work, and then just wipe your hands with it and walk away. Wash your hands and walk away. Don't worry about it. Just let it go. But you said your piece. You did it privately, and that's how I feel. Like if you see a video of somebody struggling, and here's the thing: when you accuse somebody of being high in a video or drunk or incoherent or whatever, here's the biggest problem with that. How did you feel as an addict or an alcoholic when you knew you weren't drinking or you knew you weren't using drugs and one of your family members, loved ones, employers, whoever accused you of it because you might have had a bad day or something, you were acting different, and they accused you of it and you knew deep down in your heart that you weren't? How'd that make you feel? It make you feel like the lowest thing on the planet. And it triggered you to probably go use later, right? Or drink or whatever. So just, why would you do that to somebody? Just leave it alone. I did this thing with my mom because my mom was a off and on drug addict, heroin and whatever else, crack, cocaine, whatever. And I used to do this thing with her when I would have a hunch that she was fucking up again. I would always talk to my other family members who cared about her, and I would just be like, don't say nothing, just let it go. It'll always come full force to the front line eventually. So just let it go. If you got suspicion, let it go. You will find out for a fact soon enough. So just don't worry about it. Don't say nothing. Don't get in the argument with her. Don't ask her. Don't do nothing about it. Just wait and see, because it will come to the forefront soon enough. And it always does, So I feel like that's something that's going to sort itself out regardless. So if you see somebody in a video and you think that they're acting weird or you think they might be high, you don't have to say anything. It's so weird. It's like people on the social media platforms are just so impulsive that they do not put any thought before they go to type or say something. It's like, just take a deep breath and ask yourself, what are the potential consequences of me saying this to this person? What impact is this going to have? It's almost like, since social media, words just don't mean anything. We just feel like they don't hold any weight. It's like, yes, they still do. Just because I got to read it to hear it doesn't mean that it doesn't matter, Yeah, exactly. That's my point. It can be a trigger for a lot of people. So to me, it's just like, why would you want to trigger somebody, And that kind of falls into the stereotype, like, once an addict, always an addict. They'll never change, blah, 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 And you're kind of setting that same precedent inside of the community, by just accusing people because they look a little weird, or they're talking a little funny. And what blows me away the most is, like, you don't even know this person. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have no idea about this person. You don't know shit about this person except for what you've seen on social media. So you have no idea what they've done that day, what they've been through that week. No clue. So to me, it's just kind of brash to just throw an accusation out there on somebody like that when you're supposed to be in the community, And, it's always going to be people like that. You're not going to be able to stop it. But, it's just me just trying to, maybe it'll click for someone, if they've been like that. Maybe if they hear this, it'll click for them. And it's not an assault on you, me saying this. It's just we don't think sometimes. And a lot of times when we get into recovery, it's only natural that we carry over our old behaviors because you only stopped one thing that was wrong with you. You know, the only thing you stopped was the drug use or the alcohol abuse. You didn't actually change as a person. And that's the part that we often struggle with is actually evolving as a person once we get clean and sober. Um, it's like, why do you think dry drunk is a word or why it's a phrase? Because some people get clean and sober and they're still the same person. They never changed. They never grew up. They never, worked on anything about themselves. They still never looked themselves in the mirror. They just stopped one of the things. You know, it's like in reality, the drinking and the drug abuse are like the smallest part. You know, you have such a need for a deeper change that you don't realize until you get deeper into your recovery, and then you start to realize like, I drank for a lot of different reasons. I also stunted my I stunted my growth as a person, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, because I've been just covering up. You just been covering up with alcohol and drugs. So you stop growing. You stop maturing. You stopped progressing. You just completely put a blanket on your growth. And that's something you got to understand when you get into recovery. So in order to grow and in order to mature and to catch up with the rest of the world that didn't abuse drugs for 10, 20, 30 years, um, you got to do a lot of soul searching and you got to really work on yourself. You got to figure out what bothers you from your past and heal from it and move on. You got to, throw out your apologies and whatever you got to do to feel better about the people that you hurt and move on. You got to figure out, what makes me passionate, what drives me, what do I want to do with my life now. There's so much to identify once you get clean and sober. It's like a just brand new world for you. And I know it is for me. And I realized that, that drinking was so small compared to everything else that I had to work on. And hopefully a lot of you figure that out and you can come up with ways to identify your problems and heal from them and move on. Because if you're gonna get clean and sober, you deserve a good life. You don't deserve to still suffer once you've gotten clean and sober. Once you've gotten clean and sober, you need to enjoy yourself. But in order to do that, it takes a lot of work in the beginning, and you got to just see it through. And a lot of addicts and alcoholics, they don't have patience because they've lived their whole lives on quick fixes, instant gratification, you know. Drink a couple beers, it kicks right in, right? Use drugs, it kicks right in. It's like we're always chasing that instant fix. But with yourself, your actual character, it doesn't work that way. It's a long, drawn out, lifelong process. So you just have to be ready to put that work in when it comes to you. And, in the process, I feel like if you're doing that, I honestly feel like that if you're doing these type of things, you won't be so judgmental and you won't throw so many stereotypes out on people because you'll become humble. And you can have personal opinions, So it's okay to have an opinion, but just be careful about the ones you slam out there and the ones you don't, you know. Yeah, we all have addiction because we all have things that we like, and so many different things have addictive properties. So it's like, and not only that, but it just comes down to habit forming. You know, they say if you do something for 30 days, it becomes a new habit. So it's like it's just one of them things where it don't really matter if it's a disease or a choice. I feel like I've debated it before just for fun, just to share my opinion, not to hurt any feelings, but just for fun. I did it just because I wanted to tell you why I feel the way I feel. I've done that before, but yeah, it turns into dependency with a lot of things. We're dependent on nicotine and caffeine too, but nobody talks about it because you don't smoke a cigarette and drink a cup of coffee and then pass out in your car and kill a family on the highway, right? You don't we don't talk about nicotine and caffeine because I don't know anybody that's walked into a store and robbed the clerk because they needed nicotine and caffeine. I've never seen anybody get robbed for a cup of coffee and a pack of cigarettes. So it's just like that. That's why it's because the things that people do when they're under the influence of drugs and alcohol, because it changes you, right? Caffeine and nicotine don't really change you. I mean, technically they're mood stabilizers, but they don't. It's not as extreme, It doesn't alter your personality, right? To a point where you become unrecognizable by people that know you. I've never drank so much coffee and smoked so many cigarettes that my own family didn't recognize the way I was acting. So it's just one of those things that it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. It does become dependency and it's hard to kick, just like when somebody tries to quit smoking. They're assholes, they're edgy, they're cranky, they're tired, they're all over the place because they're trying to kick a habit. It's just. Yeah, I am too. Not cigarettes. Caffeine definitely. Nicotine definitely. I switched over to vaping. I don't care. It's not really important. It's still nicotine. It's same thing. Doesn't matter. But it's cheaper, so I switched for the money thing. And it doesn't bother my wife because it doesn't stink. So that was kind of the whole thing. Just trying to change habits. I need to quit that too, but one thing at a time. The thing that makes you a bad person, that's probably the one that you should get rid of first. Because I know a lot of good people that get hooked on drugs and alcohol and become complete monsters, or people that I just don't want to be around anymore. I know a lot of people like that, myself included. So it's yeah, that's why. We're all addicted to food. Everything, entertainment. But like I said, with the drugs and the alcohol, it causes us to act out of character and do things that are out of this world. So that's why it's a big deal. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and bring this video to a close. If anybody has anything they want to add or comment, do it now. I'll give you a few seconds while I do my outro. If you found this useful, please share it. Um, yeah, that's true. But for me, that wasn't the case. I could have a pocket full of cash and still be a monster. So that wasn't true for me. I didn't. It was never where I didn't have money to buy alcohol. So for me, it was like that was kind of a that wasn't the case. Alcohol just turned me into a bad person. It really did. Um, so I just, everybody's experience is different. I know a lot of people that use drugs that were like that, where they were cool as long as they had their drugs, but really like define cool. I've seen my mother high on shit, and she was not a cool person. I didn't like anything about it. What I saw from her, I didn't like watching her nod out. I didn't like watching her geek. I didn't like watching her act crazy. So nah, money or not, that still was disgusting behavior to me to see as a child or as a young adult. It was hard to see that. Um, so you just gotta think about it like that. But yeah, so if you found this useful, go ahead, share it out. I'm glad you enjoyed the content. Anybody else watching, if you enjoy it, share it out. Any questions or concerns, feel free to inbox me. Feel free to add me on my personal page if you need anything. If you need somebody to help you out with something, feel free to hit me up. My disclaimer though, when it comes to the messages, other than just general conversation, if you come to me seeking help, or seeking advice and I give it to you and you don't apply it and you keep coming back to me asking me and I ask you, have you tried, what have you tried, and you have nothing to tell me that you tried, I'll probably stop messaging you, because this is a self thing, you know. So if you're not willing to try or make any attempt to save your own life, then I can't help you. I don't know you. I don't know where you live. I can't come to your house and yank you out your house and force you to do anything. So you got to be willing to give me something to work with. You got to be willing to work with me if you want me to try to help you. So just know that, and I hope you all have a good night.